Um, oh, so where I want to go to. Racism is a systemic problem. Most of the time when mainstream media outlets feature a news item about racism, they frame the story as about being an individual act of prejudice. A celebrity uses a racial slur or makes a derogatory comment about people of color, for instance. Majority culture clarity often uses this approach as well. When white pastors preach against racism, they challenge the members of their congregations to root out the sin of racism from their hearts. There isn't anything inherently wrong with either of these approaches. I'm not opposed to public figures being called out for their overtly racist comments. I believe it is important that each of us examine our own souls in order to find and fight the prejudice lurking there. The problem is racism is a much bigger issue than that. Racism is about centuries of oppression embedded in the very fabric of our society, including our churches and institutionalized in our laws and criminal justice system. Social scientists define racism as a multidimensional, highly adaptive system, a system that ensures an unequal distribution of resources among racial groups. The group that controls the institutions controls the distribution and embeds its racial bias into the fabric of society. In the U.S., while individual whites may be against racism, they still benefit from their group's control. This distinction between individual prejudice and a system of unequal, institutionalized racial power is fundamental. One cannot understand how racism functions in the U.S. today if one ignores group power relations. Let me be clear, I don't see myself or other whites as bad. Racism is a system that we did not create, but it's one that we didn't inherit. We must take responsibility to see and challenge it, both within and around us. This is by Robin DiAngelo. So, basically, I didn't know that person was white when I clicked on it, but who wrote it was white. I thought it might have been not a white person. But anyway, but she's right. You know? You know, like yes, systemic racism. Life insurance you should know to better understand structural racism. Structural racism, a system in which public policies, institutional practices, cultural representations, and other norms work in various, often reinforcing ways to perpetuate racial group inequity. Racial equity often refers to what a genuinely non-racist society would look like. In a racially inequitable society, the distribution of society's benefits and burdens will not be skewed by race. Systemic racism. White privilege. Institutional racism refers to policies and practices within and across institutions that intentionally or not produce outcomes that chronically favor or put a racial group at a disadvantage. Individual racism, diversity, ethnicity, cultural representations, national values. Progress and retrenchment. So, it's a system. Tim Black said it the other day, racism is a system. It's like, they kept the most dangerous part about this is it's not out in the open. It's like kind of illusion. Specifically illusion for white people, because since white people do not experience it, it's like an illusion of that the society is fair and just based on skin color. But it's not. It's not fair or just based on race, quote unquote race. And it's not, even if we left out racism, this society is still not fair or just. So yes, structural racism, systemic racism exists. It's a system that has to be rooted out. It's going to take a lot of effort.